Ladies and gentlemen, during the ceremony today, we will be honored by a flyover from the United States Air Force's very own B-2 Spirit, flown in from the 509th Bomb Wing at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. Please rise for the posting of the colors and the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Ladies and gentlemen, Excellent. On the occasion of Rensselaer's 197th commencement, it is an honor and a privilege to present to you, and I would ask them to stand, our future, the class of 2003. Thank you. Our institute is made up of many ethnicities, cultures, and faiths. We represent many nations of the world. We are one family. And in that spirit, I ask you to rise for the invocation offered this year by Imam Jafar Sebkawi.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate. This is the occasion to celebrate success. But how can we celebrate that success without remembering the source of it all? The one whom, without his favor and bounties, there would have been no success. Let us listen to his verses from the Holy Quran, emphasizing his favors upon us. ألم تروا أن الله سخر لكم ألم تروا أن الله سخر لكم ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وأسبغ عليكم نعمه ظاهرة وباطنة. Do you not see how God has harnessed whatever is in heaven and whatever is on earth for you? He has lavished his favor on you both publicly and privately. In another verse he said, ومن آياته خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف ألسنتكم وألوانكم إن في ذلك لآيات للعالمين. Among his signs are the creation of heaven and earth, as well as the diversity in your tongues and colors. In that are signs for those who know. And let's listen to the other verse, emphasizing the importance of knowing who are we towards each other. يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير. O mankind, we created you from a single pair of male and female, and made you into nations and tribes, that you may know each other, not that you may despise each other. Verily, the most honored of you in the sight of God is he who is the most righteous of you. And God has full knowledge and is well acquainted with all things. Having said that, we pray to God, O God, help us to be grateful to you and to use your bounties that you have given us to use them in your causes, in the causes that you are pleased with, for the benefit of all of your creation. Oh God, please keep us on the straight path. Ameen.
Please be seated. Good morning. As president of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, it is my duty, my honor, my privilege, and my very great pleasure to welcome you to Rensselaer's 197th commencement exercises. For the faculty, staff, and trustees, this is the day we work and look forward to see that work richly rewarded. We salute you, the class of 2003, and we share in the glow of your accomplishment. For your parents, your spouses, and your families and friends, this morning marks the fulfillment of years of proud anticipation and not a little anxiety. Let us pause now to salute them, your family, your friends, for the sacrifices they have made for you. Every commencement day is important. On this day, the past and the future stand side by side. It is a ceremony marked by interesting regalia and solemn traditions, which trace their origins back to the 14th century. We celebrate and solemnize an end and a beginning. Today is a day to be cherished by you forever. Today also happens to be a very important day in the life of this nation and in the education of all of its people. 49 years ago today, on May 17th, 1954, the United States Supreme Court profoundly altered the course of our history. I am referring to one of the most influential and far-reaching opinions ever rendered by the court, the unanimous ruling on the group of cases consolidated under the name Oliver Brown et al. Versus the Board of Education of Topeka. With that landmark decision, the court struck down racial segregation in the nation's public schools and opened doors of opportunity not only to our nation's minority children, myself included, but to all of our society, black and white, rich and poor. The world changed on that day, and we all are, in countless ways, the beneficiaries of that change. Today's graduates are keenly aware of the power of change. The world is a markedly different place than it was just 4 years ago. For that matter, it is a markedly different place than it was just 4 months ago. This is a time of unprecedented challenges and unprecedented opportunities. Consider for a moment just one example of how threat and opportunity, fear and hope converge in our global community. The spread of severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, across the globe in a matter of weeks has shown us both how vulnerable and how closely connected we are. At the same time, we have never before seen an international group of World Health Organization scientists working cooperatively in laboratories around the world to identify the cause of a disease with such breathtaking speed and efficiency. This is a time that demands unprecedented skill, knowledge, fortitude, and compassion in our leaders and in ourselves as well. I want to begin by telling you a story this morning of fortitude and compassion. It is a story about one of your classmates, a story some of you probably know. I do not often single out individuals because each of you is so unique, talented, determined, and each has a story. Yet her approach to challenge is so inspiring that I wanted to share her story with you this morning. She has given me her permission to do so. In May of 1992, Sonda Kikich, then 17 years old, and her 12-year-old brother fled their war-torn hometown of Tuzla, Bosnia. That country's civil war had advanced into their town, and authorities would not permit free travel in the area. Separated from their parents, frightened, and with only a few days' worth of clothes and money, Sonda and her brother huddled for several days with 28 other refugees at the home of a Good Samaritan before crossing the Hungarian border to Budapest. Once there, they secured passage to Brussels, where their hope was to live with a friend of their father's. However, once in Belgium, their father's friend was not able to help them after all. So instead, they called their mother's half-sister, living in Germany, someone they had never met. The aunt agreed to take them in temporarily, although in the end, they stayed 3 years. They learned to speak fluent German, and Sonda repeated high school, studying French and English, because she could not receive credit for courses that she had taken in Bosnia. By 1995, Sonda and her brother were with their parents, who had managed to escape also. In late 1998, their father discovered a program that brought Bosnian refugees of mixed religion marriages to the United States. The family applied and was selected. Sonda's father located an acquaintance living in Corning, New York, via an internet search engine. The family packed 8 bags of belongings and moved to the United States in February of 1999. Eager to earn her college degree, Sonda began classes at nearby Corning Community College. It had always been her dream to become an electrical engineer like her father. So Sonda set her sights on Rensselaer. 2 years later, she was admitted, becoming a member of the class of 2003. Rensselaer awarded her 2 scholarships, the Joseph H. Smith Class of 45 Medal for the transfer engineering student with the highest cumulative average, and the Phi Theta Kappa Scholarship for intellectual achievement at a community college. For this young woman, today's commencement culminates an experience that spanned 11 years, civil war, 5 countries, 3 new languages, and traveling some 4,500 miles. I am particularly struck by her, and Sonda is here, and I'm going to have her stand in a minute. I was particularly struck by her matter-of-fact comment at what must have been a very low point when they were turned away by their friend in Belgium. She said, and I quote, "The only way was to go forward. We had no other choice. We couldn't stand around and cry. We knew we wanted to finish school and find our parents, and we did eventually." Her parents and one of the Good Samaritans are here today to witness her graduation. Her brother graduates from SUNY Binghamton this weekend. I would ask Sonda and her friend and family to stand as an example of what you all are. Thank you. So perhaps amid all of the day's jubilation, and after hearing Sonda's story, some of you may be wondering secretly if you have in you what the future will require of you. Such thoughts are good. They will help you to channel your enthusiasm, your drive to learn more, to build in you strength of character and self-restraint, and ultimately enable you to lead and to flourish. I have every confidence in you because I believe that in you, you have everything the future requires of you. Your Rensselaer education has prepared you for the inevitable challenges and the opportunities that lie ahead. There is a Chinese proverb that says, "A teacher can but lead you to the door. Learning is up to you." In a few moments, I will be privileged to participate in bestowing upon you a Rensselaer diploma. Look on this day as a new beginning, a door opening upon a whole new world of learning, of opportunity and promise, a journey to a new country. Thank you. Over the years, Rensselaer has honored nationally and internationally recognized individuals who exemplify the achievements, the ingenuity, the imagination, and entrepreneurship that have been hallmarks of this great university. Today, we are privileged to recognize the Honorable Donna Shalala, Dr. Robert M. Solow, Dr. Richard E. Smalley, Mr. Morris Marty Silverman, and Dr. Benjamin S. Carson, Sr., for unique contributions in their respective fields. We recognize the Honorable Donna E. Shalala, 5th President of the University of Miami and former Secretary of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, for valuing the uniqueness in each man, woman, and child, and for being an advocate for social change during a lifetime of public service. We honor Dr. Robert M. Solow, Professor Emeritus in Economics at MIT, and 1987 Nobel Prize winner in Economics, for demonstrating the critical importance of technological advances to economic growth and for championing government support of education and research. We honor Dr. Richard E. Smalley, co-recipient of the 1996 Nobel Prize in Chemistry and the Jean and Norman Hackerman Professor of Chemistry and Director of the Carbon Nanotechnology Laboratory at Rice University, for the discovery of carbon atoms bound in the form of a Buckminster-Fuller sphere, and for his work as a catalyst for modern research in nanotechnology. We honor entrepreneur and philanthropist Mr. Morris Marty Silverman for envisioning the Capital Region as an internationally renowned seat for education and research, and for enabling Rensselaer to do its part in making his noble enterprise a reality. And we honor Dr. Benjamin S. Carson, Sr., Director of the Division of Pediatric Neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins University, and world-renowned pediatric separator of twins and surgeon extraordinaire, for pioneering new surgical techniques to improve the lives of patients, especially children, and for dedicating his life to motivating and enabling disadvantaged youth to reach their dreams.
The Honorable Donna E. Shalala. You are Rensselaer's spiritual daughter. From your first venture into public service as a Peace Corps volunteer to the halls of academia and the heights of national policy, your bywords is and has been, why not change the world? You are assured and energetic, centered in the midst of storms, propelled by clarity of objective and certainty of mission. Difficulty does not deter you, and obstacles are your stepping stones. For devoted service to your country, for being an advocate of change, and for serving as a model and mentor for the aspiring.
By virtue of the authority of the laws of the State of New York, on the recommendation of the faculty, and with the approval of the Board of Trustees, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute proudly awards you the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws and invests you with the hood signifying this degree.
Dr. Robert M. Solo. You are a child of the Depression and a member of the greatest generation molded by World War II, a Nobel Prize-winning economist and an esteemed academician. You see technology and innovation, the bywords of Rensselaer, as the cornerstones of economic growth. You believe that the world financial infrastructure will falter without ingenuity, that national policy should emphasize research and support higher education, and that a compassionate government should have some responsibility for the cruel swings of economic fortune, for pioneering the realization that nations should harness the engines of technological innovation for future economic health, and that education and research are the seeds of national well-being.
By virtue of the authority of the laws of the State of New York, on the recommendation of the faculty, and with the approval of the Board of Trustees, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute proudly awards you the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws and invests you with the hood signifying this degree.
Dr. Richard E. Smalley. Like the single-walled carbon nanotube that you unearthed, 1/1000th of a meter in size, but stronger than steel, your work has been a source of infinite possibilities. You have been a catalyst for what some see as the new industrial revolution. Your research has engaged the scientific community, and you have prodded those with power to shape public policy that supports nanotechnology. In a tomorrow in which nanoscience has truly become nanotechnology, you foresee nano-enhanced photovoltaics that will unleash the power of the sun. For extolling the elegance of nature and helping to harvest its powerful potential.
By virtue of the authority of the laws of the State of New York, on the recommendation of the faculty and with the approval of the Board of Trustees, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute proudly awards you the honorary degree of Doctor of Science and invests you with the hood signifying this degree.
Mr. Morris Marty Silverman. You are a dreamer and a doer, a visionary and an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, and a friend. Although the years and miles have separated you from your native Troy, you've returned to your roots, remembering its history and affirming its future. You have envisioned the Capital Region as an internationally renowned seat for education and research, a critical mass of talent and opportunity. Your noble enterprise constellation, faculty members, are the cornerstone of Rensselaer's future in biotechnological research and the foundation for the fulfillment of the Rensselaer Plan. For having the foresight to enable the university to transform today's strengths into tomorrow's recognition.
By virtue of the authority of the laws of the State of New York, on the recommendation of the faculty, and with the approval of the Board of Trustees, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute proudly awards you the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws and invests you with the hood signifying this degree.
Dr. Benjamin S. Carson, Sr. Empowered by education and fortified by faith, you have risen above rage and racism to become a model for disadvantaged youth. A renowned pediatric neurosurgeon, you have taken your mother's admonition to strive for excellence as your mantra. You have parlayed your success into a scholarship fund to motivate and enable talented young people to reach for their dreams. You have taught our youth to draw strength from all of life's possibilities, both negative and positive. For teaching the next generation that knowledge is the key to all doors and that they need not be the victims of circumstances, no matter how challenging those circumstances might be.
By virtue of the authority of the laws of the State of New York, on the recommendation of the faculty, and with the approval of the Board of Trustees, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute proudly awards you the honorary degree of Doctor of Science and invests you with the hood, signifying this degree. It is my great privilege to introduce to you formally a man who not only has achieved world renown for his gifts as a pediatric neurosurgeon, but who also has lured young people away from the transient glamour and glitz of sports and entertainment to the more enduring fulfillment of high academic achievement. I'm speaking, of course, of our commencement speaker, Dr. Benjamin S. Carson, Sr. Dr. Carson has been the director of the Division of Pediatric Neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins since 1984. He came to public notice in 1987 when he led a medical team that successfully separated West German twins who were joined at the cranium. Both children survived. 10 years later, Dr. Carson led a team of South African doctors in the first successful separation of twins joined at the top of the head. At age 33, Dr. Carson became the youngest chief of pediatric neurosurgery in the United States. The techniques he has developed have saved the lives of hundreds of children. Dr. Carson surmounted early obstacles in his own life. His mother encouraged him to learn and to strive for excellence. He overcame a temper and low self-esteem to excel in high school and was awarded a scholarship to Yale University, from which he earned a bachelor's degree in psychology in 1973. He then went on to the University of Michigan Medical School. Dr. Carson has dedicated his life to inspiring others to use their God-given talents. Dr. Carson is the author of 3 best-selling books that expand upon his life and philosophy: Gifted Hands, Think Big, and The Big Picture. All 3 incorporate his belief that discipline, faith, and good character are at the core of true success. The Library of Congress, at its 200th anniversary, named him as one of the 1989 living legends, and he was chosen by both CNN and Time magazine as one of America's top physicians and scientists. He sits on the boards of numerous organizations. He is the president and co-founder of the Carson Scholars Fund, which recognizes young people of all backgrounds for exceptional academic and humanitarian accomplishments. It is my great honor to present to you a man who believes that education is liberation and that successful people do not have fewer problems. They are just undeterred by obstacles. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Benjamin S. Carson, Sr.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It is such an honor to be here, and very humbling whenever I'm in the presence of Dr. Jackson and people like Provost Peterson and some of the other faculty members here and my other honorands. I'm asking myself, what am I doing here? Because they're so impressive in terms of what they've done. But you young people are very impressive too, and to be congratulated for what you've accomplished so far, embarking upon what's going to be, I'm sure, extraordinarily exciting times. You know, medicine was the only thing that really ever interested me as a young person. I used to love to go to the doctor's office. Now that tells you what kind of person I was. And I loved to go to the hospital. There was nothing I looked forward more than going to the hospital. And we'd be there for hours at a time because we were on medical assistance, waiting for one of the interns or residents to see us. But I would entertain myself by listening to the PA system. Dr. Jones to the emergency room. Dr. Johnson to the clinic. And I'd be thinking one day they're going to be saying, Dr. Carson to the operating room. But of course nowadays we have beepers, so I still don't get to hear it. But it was so important, you know, just to have those dreams and to have something to which to aspire. But you know, there was one major problem, and that is I was a dummy. You know, I just didn't do that well in school. I thought I was really stupid. And it was an opinion shared by my classmates and teachers as well. And, but, you know, along the way, I did have a mother who thought that I was smart. You know, my mother was one of 24 children, and she got married at age 13. And she and my father moved from rural Tennessee to Detroit, where he was working in a factory. And she discovered that he was a bigamist. I told that story at a graduation at the University of Utah. Nobody thought it was that strange. But, she thought it was pretty strange, I must say. Now, of course, you know they don't do that in Utah anymore. Okay, that was a thing of the past. And actually, some of the most upstanding people I've ever met are in Utah. And we've had wonderful family vacations in Utah. I remember once we went. First of all, there are no black people in Utah, but we went, and so I took my boys to this arcade, this game arcade. The manager was so surprised, he came out with 2 hands full of coins and said, "You guys, enjoy yourselves." So there really are some advantages to being black in Utah. But anyway, you know, my mother did in fact think it was strange, so we moved to Boston to live with her older sister and brother-in-law in a typical tenement with all the things that you might associate with, you know, a dilapidated tenement of violence and rats and roaches and gangs. And, you know, both of my cousins were murdered. And, you know, I never anticipated that I was really going to live beyond 25 years of age. But in retrospect, I think that all of that hardship was a good thing because it puts fire in your belly and it helps you to learn how to deal with obstacles when you face them. And I think that was helpful to me, you know, as a first-year medical student at the University of Michigan. I didn't do that well in the first set of comprehensive exams. And my counselor looked at my record and he said, "You seem like a very intelligent young man. Bet there are a lot of things you could do outside of medicine." And he encouraged me to drop out of medical school, said I was making a big mistake and I was just going to torture myself and others. And I told him that medicine was the only thing I ever wanted to do. So he said, "Let's put you on a special plan then. You take half the first year courses the first year, half the first year courses the second year, half the second year courses the third year. We'll just keep dividing things, and eventually you'll graduate, or you'll die." Well, you know, I wasn't particularly interested in that either, so, you know, I thanked him for his advice, and I went home and I started thinking about, I said, you know you're not stupid. You know, and I thought back to the time when I was in grade school, and how my mother had gotten things to change. Because what she did is she prayed and she asked God to give her the wisdom to know what to do to get her young sons to understand the importance of intellectual development. And you know something? God gave her the wisdom, at least in her opinion. My brother and I didn't think it was all that wise, because it was to turn off the TV. You know, what kind of wisdom is that? As far as we were concerned, that was child abuse. But still, you know, we could only watch 2 or 3 pre-selected TV programs during the week, and with all that spare time, we had to read 2 books apiece from the Detroit Public Library and submit to her written book reports, which she couldn't read, but we didn't know that. You know, she would put a little check mark on it and act like she was reading it. But you know, between the covers of those books, even though we were desperately poor, I discovered a whole new world. You know, I could go anywhere, I could be anybody, I could do anything. New horizons began to open up for me. I began to imagine myself in a laboratory pouring chemicals from a beaker into a flask, creating chemical reactions, new microcosms under the microscope, new galaxies, telescope. I began to know things that nobody else in my class knew. And within the space of a year and a half, I went from the bottom of the class to the top of the class, much to the consternation of all those people who called me dummy. Now they were coming to me saying, Benny, how do you work this problem?" And I'd say, "Sit at my feet, youngster, while I instruct you." I was perhaps a little obnoxious, you know. But, you know, the fact of the matter is, you know, I really had the same brain when I was doing poorly that I had when I was doing well. It was just a matter of change in perception. And, you know, I have come to believe as a neurosurgeon and studying the brain and neuroscience that there is no such thing as an average person if they have a normal brain, because the brain is capable of so much. It has billions and billions of neurons, hundreds of billions of interconnections. It's more complex and sophisticated than any computer you can possibly imagine. It remembers everything you've ever seen, everything you've ever heard. It can process more than 2 million bits of information per second. Now, as an example, how many of you remember your birthday? Let me just see your hand. Everybody who remembers their birthday. That's almost unanimous. Okay, that's good. Now, what did your brain have to do for you to respond to that question? Well, first of all, the sound waves had to leave my lips, travel through the air, enter your external auditory meatus, travel down to your tympanic membrane, set up a vibratory force which travel across the ossicles of the middle ear to the oval and round window, set up a vibratory force in the endolymph, which mechanically distorted the microcilia, converting mechanical energy to electrical energy, which traveled across the cochlear nerve to the cochlear nucleus at the pontomedullary junction, from there to the superior olivary nucleus, sending bilaterally up the brainstem to the lamina meniscus, to the inferior colliculus and the medial geniculate nuclei, across the thalamic radiation to the posterior temporal lobes, begin the auditory processing, from there to the frontal lobes, coming down the tract of Victor's you're retrieving the memory from the medial hippocampal structure and the mammary bodies, back to the frontal lobes to start the motor response at the bed cell level, coming down the corticospinal tract, across the internal capsule into the cerebral peduncle, descending down to the cervical medullary decussation, into the spinal cord gray matter, synapsing there, going out to the neuromuscular junction, stimulating the nerve and the muscle, so you could raise your hand. And that, of course, thank you. That, of course, is the simplified version of, and see if you can get one of those rap singers to do that. But anyway, you know, if our brains are that sophisticated and we barely have to think about it to do something that complex, can you imagine what the human brain is actually capable of when you put your mind to something. And, that's one of the reasons that, I have become so interested in what happens with our young people. I have a program at the hospital in which I bring 800 students in at a time. I show them slides of the human brain, what goes on in an academic medical center, and talk about human potential. At the end, I let them ask me questions, but sometimes I ask them questions, and I asked not too long ago, how many of you can name for me 5 NBA players? Virtually every hand goes up. NFL, no problem. Major League Baseball, movie stars, rap singers, they know them all. I said, who can name for me 5 Nobel Prize winners? Now, out of 800, 10 hands went up. And I said, leave your hands up because I'm going to call on one of you. All the hands went down. Now, what does that tell you? And then I said, well, this is the information age. Who can tell me what a microprocessor is? Of course, they were weary by now, so only one young man raises his hand. I called on him. He proudly stood up and he said, a microprocessor is a tiny processor. That was the extent of his knowledge, extraordinarily superficial. And maybe that wasn't such a problem back in the days when we were in the agricultural age. Because in the agricultural age, this country could produce more corn and barley and wheat than any place else in the world. Nobody could compete with us. And what about the industrial age? Think about it. Think about World War II. Hitler and the Axis powers, the Japanese coming from each side, crushing empire after empire, the whole world about to come under domination of tyranny, except for one thing, the United States of America. A country with the ability to send its young men from the countries and the cities, the hills and the dales, to fight a two-front war in different parts of the world. A country with the ability to send its young women to the factories to produce more airplanes and trains and mortars than anybody could possibly imagine, and to save the world. Incredible industry. But we're no longer in the industrial age. Now we're in the information age. We're in the technical age. And we must be able to do something different now. There have been surveys, I'm sure you're all aware of them, that show us scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of pre-college learning in science and technology. That is a problem because, we're not the first pinnacle nation. There have been others. Ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, ancient Rome. Number one, going to be there forever, no competition. What happened to them? Where are they now? Same thing happened in each case. They became enamored of sports, entertainment, lifestyles of the rich and famous. They lost their moral compass, and they went right down the tubes. And some people say that can't happen in this nation. But I believe it's already in the process of happening. And the question is, can we be the first people in the history of the world to stop it? Can we be the first people to learn from what has happened to others? And our future is in your hands. Your generation is going to have to be different than my generation. We're going to have to learn what those things are that are really important in life. We have to learn that there are values and principles. One of the things that characterized ancient Greece and ancient Rome before they fell, they started philosophizing about everything. All of a sudden, there was no right, there was no wrong. They could explain away anything. Does that sound in any way familiar to you? Today, we call it political correctness. There is no such thing as right and wrong. And I don't know that that is the right thing for us to be teaching our young people. This is a country that was founded on freedom of speech, and yet we find ourselves in a situation where people say, don't talk about God in public because some people don't believe in God, and that might be offensive to them. Have you heard stuff like that? Don't you dare mention something like Jesus Christ. My goodness, that would really be offensive to people who are Jews or Muslims or Buddhists or what have you. Let me tell you something. If a Buddhist comes up to me and starts talking about Buddha, that does not offend me in the slightest. In fact, I am delighted that he believes in something that might improve our relationship. And what we need to emphasize is tolerance and learning how to respect what other people believe and not unanimity of thought. Well, I'm going to have to close, but before I do, I want to talk a little bit about what success is. Is success a big house and a lot of cars and all the fancy things and big degrees and a big bank account? I'm not sure it is. You know, in 1997, when I was asked to come to South Africa to head up a team in an attempt to separate type 2 vertical craniopagus twins, I was thrilled. But I realized it was going to be a great medical challenge. There had been 13 attempts to separate twins of that type before, none of which had been successful. But, you know, there was also a great social challenge here, because the operation was going to be done at the Medical University of South Africa at Medunsa, the only major black teaching hospital in South Africa, always a stepchild throughout apartheid and in the post-apartheid period. This was going to be their opportunity to stand shoulder to shoulder with Cape Town and Johannesburg and all the other great universities. And I wasn't ready for all that social pressure to be on my shoulders. So I said, Lord, you're going to have to show me something here that other people haven't seen, because smarter, more capable people than me have tried and have failed. And, you know, we have a three-dimensional virtual reality workstation at Johns Hopkins. And we were able to get the MRIs and the CT scans and angiograms and x-rays and merge those together into a virtual image. I put my goggles on, we're able to study those brains. And I noticed that the common drainage system that those twins shared was a little narrower right in the middle than it was on either end. The traditional neurosurgical literature says you should decide which twin to give the drainage system to, and then you divide the other one over the course of 3 or 4 operations from that twin, divided in time by several months, and they would develop enough collateral circulation that they would survive. Well, I felt strongly impressed that if we concentrated on the area where the drainage was narrowing, that the blood flow would adequately adjust itself and that they would both have a complete system in a single operation. And when I explained that to the team, they said, well, you're the boss. We'll do whatever you want to do. Well, I remember going to the operating room. It was 2 days before New Year's of '98, and they were having song service and prayer service in the OR. I was thrilled. I said, bring in a stereo system so we can play inspirational music. 19 hours into the operation, we were only 3/4 of the way finished. And the part that remained was so complex, the blood vessels were entangled, they were engorged, they were adhesed. It appeared impossible. We stopped the operation. We went into conference. I suggested maybe we could cover that area over with skin, come back in a number of months. They would have developed enough collateral that we could cut through that and they would survive. And the doctors from Zambia and South Africa said, that's a wonderful idea, and I know that would work at Johns Hopkins. But we don't have the ability to keep partially separated twins alive. They'll die. Now I really felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. I didn't have all my fancy technical equipment that I have at Hopkins. I just had a scalpel, my loops, and a prayer on my lips. And I said, Lord, it's up to you. And I went in and started cutting between those blood vessels that were so thin you could see the air bubbles of anesthetic agent coursing through them, just daring you to make a nick in them. Make a long story short, when I made the final cut between those twins, over the stereo system came the Hallelujah chorus. Everybody had goosebumps. And when we finished that operation, after 28 hours, one of the twins popped his eyes open and reached up for the tube. The other one did the same thing. By the time we got to the ICU, within 2 days, they were extubated. Within 3 days, they were eating. Within 2 weeks, they were crawling around. And today, they're in preschool, perfectly normal. But that is not the success. Thank you. But that's not the success. The success you had to be there to witness was the reaction of the people who had been following the story so closely in the media. They were literally dancing in the streets. Their level of self-esteem was through the roof. And you see, that's what I mean by success, using the talent that God has given you to elevate other people. And that's what I mean when I say think big. The T is for talent, which God gave to every single person, not just the ability to sing and dance and throw a ball. Nothing wrong with those things, don't get me wrong. But the thing that keeps us on top is not the ability to shoot a 25-foot jump shot, but the ability to solve a quadratic equation. And we've got to learn how to recognize academic achievement, and we've got to do it early if our country is to remain in the position that we would like it to be in. The H is for honesty. Lead a clean and honest life. That way you don't put skeletons in the closet, because if you put them there, they always come back to haunt you, just when you don't want to see them. And if you always tell the truth, you don't have to try to remember what you said 3 months ago. And it makes life so much easier. The I is for insight. You know, listen to the people who've already gone where you're trying to go. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. The N is for nice. Be nice to people, because once they get over their suspicion of why you're being nice, they'll be nice to you. And you can get so much more done that way. And I want us to all raise our hands right now and take the niceness pledge. Everybody raise your hands. All hands up. We're going to take the niceness pledge, which means we're going to be nice to every single person we encounter for 1 week. Okay? For 1 week, we're going to be nice. And that includes members of your own family, too. And now, what have you pledged to do? Think about this. You're not going to talk about anybody behind their back for a week or in front of their back. If you're going to help anybody you see struggling, men, we're going to bring chivalry back, okay? We're going to open the doors for the ladies, hold their chairs for them, okay? And ladies, you're not going to curse them out when they do that, okay? Now, there's only one space on the elevator. You're going to let somebody else get on, and when you get on the elevator, don't act like you never saw the numbers change before. Speak to people. You may have to practice CPR, but talk to people you normally walk by, act like they don't exist. You're going to get in your car, the crowded parking lot, no spaces left. You see 3 people following you in their car because they want your space. When you get in the car, you're not going to pull down the mirror and open the glove box. Just get out of the space and let them have it, you know, just for a week. But you know what you're going to be doing during that week is thinking about other people first. Can you imagine what our society would be like if everybody thought about other people first? It would be a wonderful place. The K is for knowledge, which is the thing that makes you into a more valuable person. I do have a big house and a lot of cars and all that stuff, but is it important? It is not. And if it all disappeared tomorrow, I don't care, because I can get it all right back almost immediately with what's up here, or at least I could before managed care. And you know, that's what Solomon meant when he said gold, silver, and rubies are nice, but to be treasured far above those things, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, because he knew with those you could get all the gold and silver and rubies you wanted. But more importantly, you come to understand that they don't amount to a hill of beans, and that the most important thing is to develop your God-given talents to the point where you become valuable to the people around you. The B is for books, which is the mechanism for obtaining that knowledge. That's a whole nother talk. The I is for in-depth learning. Learning is for the sake of knowledge and understanding, as opposed to superficial learning. Superficial learners cram, cram, cram before a test. 3 weeks later, know nothing. I'm sure none of you have ever met anyone like that. And finally, the last letter, G, is for God. You know, let's not be ashamed of God in our society. I think it's the wrong place to go, and people who say that don't understand the history of this nation that we live in. You know, some lawyers came to me a couple of summers ago, and they said, you can't put your Think Big banners up in public schools because the G stands for God, and the First Amendment says that there can be no government-sponsored religion. Well, I reminded them that the First Amendment also said there can be no government suppression of religious expression. So we had a rather vigorous argument. And I suggested that we resolve this at the level of the Supreme Court. Well, does that sound like a bold and audacious statement? Actually, it wasn't, because you see, the next week I knew I was going to the Supreme Court to receive the Jefferson Award. So I figured I would ask while I was there, and I did. And Justice Sandra Day O'Connor said that they were all wet. They had no idea what separation of church and state meant. And, you know, we need to make it very clear to people what that does mean. When people say stuff like you can't talk about God in public, do they realize that the Declaration of Independence says that we have certain inalienable rights given to us by our Creator, a.k.a. God? Do they realize that our Pledge of Allegiance says we are one nation under God, that most courtrooms in the land on the wall, it says, in God we trust, every coin in our pocket, every bill in our wallet says, in God we trust? So if it's in our founding documents, it's in our pledges, in our courts, and it's on our money, but we can't talk about it, what in the world is that? In medicine, we call it schizophrenia. And doesn't that explain a lot of what goes on in our society today? So as you go forth from here today, armed with a Rensselaer diploma, please take with you the knowledge that it is okay to live by godly principles of loving your fellow man, of caring about your neighbor, of developing your God-given talents to the utmost so that you become valuable to the people around you, of having values and principles and standing for something. And if we do that, not only will we remain the preeminent nation in the world, but we will have one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carson. He says that we here at Rensselaer boggle the mind. He says that, well, with his hands, he really boggles the mind. But with his words, he lifts our spirits. Thank you very much. On the occasion of this commencement, we recognize members of our faculty with special awards. We honor Rensselaer by honoring these distinguished faculty. Information about the awards and the winners is detailed in your program. One of these awards will now be presented by Jennifer Spear, class of 2003, and president of Phalanx.
Good morning, everyone, and congratulations to the class of 2003. I'm here on behalf of Phalanx, Rensselaer's Leadership Honor Society, Senior Leadership Honor Society, to present the David M. Darren Class of 1940 Counseling Award. David M. Darren was a faithful friend and former trustee of the Institute. In his honor, this award is conferred upon a member of the faculty who has performed outstanding service in the counseling of students. Nominations are submitted by faculty, staff, and students, but the recipient is chosen by the student membership of Phalanx. It's my privilege to present this year's David M. Darren Class of 1940 Counseling Award to Professor George List. Will Professor List please come forward?
On behalf of the trustees of Rensselaer and a host of grateful students, I wish to express admiration and gratitude to our faculty who have served the university long and well, and during the past year have retired. Their names are listed in your program on page 11. These people have served on our campus as inspiring teachers, creative scholars, able administrators, affectionate colleagues, and wise counselors. In appreciation, we record here the sentiments of students, alumni, faculty, and staff for their longtime service to Rensselaer. As they now enter upon a life of greater freedom, we salute them for their past achievements and bind them to us with an honorable and enduring title. By virtue of the authority of the Board of Trustees, I confer upon them the distinguished faculty title of President Emeritus, or Professor Emeritus. Excuse me, Shirley. They are Erhard Krempel, Professor Mechanical, Aerospace and Nuclear Engineering; Shyam Muraka, Professor Materials Science and Engineering; Charles Pfau, Professor of School of Science; Michael Savick, Professor, School of Engineering. May I have a round of applause for these distinguished faculty.
During their studies here, 42 students satisfactorily completed the advanced course in military, naval, or aerospace studies and received commissions as officers at commissioning exercises yesterday. Their names are listed on page 40 in the commencement program. Other students have distinguished themselves in scholarship or in research. In recognition of their accomplishments, they now receive awards established by alumni, families, and friends in tribute to notable names in Rensselaer's history. These departments and research prizes and awards are described in your commencement program beginning on page 37. Will those award recipients and commissioned officers present please stand? Please join me in a round of applause to these outstanding graduates.
In addition to the departmental and research prizes and awards, several institute prizes and awards are presented to members of the senior class for participation in campus life and for overall academic accomplishment. These awards are described in your commencement program on page 40. The Leopold L. Ballison Prize, which combines athletics and academics, goes to Mark Adam Jensenius and Ryan Gordon Quiller. The Willie Stanton Award for service to the student body is presented to John A. Muller and Sumaya Benganam. The Livingston W. Houston Citizenship Award to the first citizen of the college is awarded to Allison Kate Gear. The Eric Johnson Prize is awarded to the senior with the highest academic record. This year, 19 seniors completed their undergraduate studies with a perfect 4.0 grade point average. Before announcing the Johnson Prize winner, I would like to recognize the other 18 seniors who achieved this high standard. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing until all are called. They are Rohit Rajive Agrawal, Christian Alexis Castillo, Kevin Robert Coletta, Benjamin David Farkas, Kenneth Bradford Hampson, Jeffrey Roy McAdams Hansberry, Mark Adam Jensenius, Lawrence Stephen Lansing, Matthew Joseph Leata, Richard Stanley McNutt, Jacob Michael Miller, Mohit Oberoi, Andrew Francis Perugui, Ryan Gordon Quiller, David P. Rask, Joseph Arthur Schreier, Timothy Andrew Vanderpool, Anthony Joseph Walcup. Please join me in giving these extraordinary scholars a round of applause. And now we invite to the stage the winner of the J. Eric Johnson Prize, Andrew Thomas Mahachek.
I now present to you Ms. Jennifer Spear, President of the Class of 2003.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. On behalf of the class of 2003, we would like to thank and welcome all our family, friends, and distinguished guests. I would also like to thank the members of the class council, especially Ryan Jones and Sarah Peliquin, for organizing an amazing senior week. We, the class of 2003, are the largest class in Rensselaer history to date. This past week, we had the largest number of seniors participate in Senior Week. And the members of our class have made large impacts on campus, both as individuals and as a group. I can confidently say that our class has taken the fullest advantage of what Rensselaer has to offer, and we have given back to the school through community service and student involvement on campus. The members of our class have gathered here today to mark an important stop on the journey that is our lives. All members of this class took very diverse paths on their way to RPI. Whether our fellow classmates came from the farthest reaches of the world or across the street at Troy High, our paths through life led us here today. For the past 4 years, longer for some, and I'm not talking about the architecture students, we have shared experiences that have helped shape our lives at Rensselaer. From the induction of Dr. Jackson to the building of the Mueller Center in Barton Hall to the tragic events of September 11th, we have all shared in joys, sorrows, frustrations, and excitements. Most of us entered Rensselaer 4 years ago as wide-eyed freshmen. We leave today better educated, more worldly, and just as excited as the day we entered. As we look towards our shared future, I know many of us are anxiously thinking about our next step in life, whether it be moving to California, Cincinnati, or Binghamton, New York, or somewhere in between. Even in the face of all the current changes in our lives, I urge you to all sit back and take time to reflect on this day and its meaning. For the rest of our lives, we will remember all the friends and contacts we have made through the years at Rensselaer. We can take strength in remembering the challenges we have faced during our time here and the positive impacts we have made on each other's lives and on our community. Remember to thank the family, friends, and people who have supported you through the years and have helped you to reach this milestone. I know I will. Although we all are embarking on very different journeys in our lives, we will forever be connected to our time here at RPI and always look back with fondness and memories of the bonds we have created here. Commencement is the final experience we will share together, yet our connections with RPI and with each other will not end today. Whatever you do and wherever you go, bring the spirit you have shown here at RPI. At a Rutgers commencement exercise several years ago, the most celebrated artist of the 80s, John Bon Jovi, my personal favorite, said, "Whatever you do in life, do it with passion." I couldn't have said it better myself. In closing, I would like to wish you all good luck, health, and happiness in your future endeavors. I would like to leave you with some words of wisdom from a band called Dirty. Don't stop believing. Thank you.
I would ask Mr. Lee Bishop, President of the Rensselaer Alumni Association, to please come forward and welcome the class of 2003 to the alumni ranks.
On behalf of your Alumni Association, it is a great pleasure for me to welcome the graduates of the class of 2003 as the newest members of your Alumni Association. Your Alumni Association presents the long life connection for you with your alma mater, with your classmates, and with friends you've developed over the time you were here at Rensselaer. Today, as you receive your Rensselaer degree so richly deserved, you will receive a special gift from the Rensselaer Alumni Association to display in your office or in your home as you choose. This beautiful cherry paperweight, laser engraved with the logo of the Hefner Alumni House, shall serve as a reminder of your special days at Rensselaer and your long life affiliation with over 85,000 alumni globally spread across the world. On behalf of your fellow members of the Alumni Association, I wish you every success in the future and ask that you stay connected and don't leave us. Use your Alumni Association, for we are there to support you. So, to initiate the alumni class of 2003, Jennifer Spear will unveil the class banner. Congratulations to you all.
Thank you, Jennifer. This banner is greatly appreciated. The positive attitude of the class of 2003 serves as a model of dedication to Rensselaer. You and your fellow graduates will be remembered by all of us, and we are proud to welcome you to the family of Rensselaer alumni.
Madam President, the candidates to be introduced have completed the academic requirements for the bachelor's degree as prescribed by the faculty and approved by the Board of Trustees. They have pursued studies in the departments of architecture, engineering, humanities and social sciences, management, science, and information technology. They will be presented by the deans of the 5 schools and the Associate Dean for Information Technology.
I would now ask Professor Joseph Flaherty, Dean of the School of Science, to come forward.
Will the candidates for the bachelor's degrees in science please rise? Madam President, I have the honor to present the candidates of the School of Science for the degree of Bachelor of Science. Madam President, the candidates standing have completed the requirements of the university, and the faculty recommends them to you for the bachelor's degree in their respective fields of science.
By virtue of the authority of the laws of the State of New York, on the recommendation of the faculty and with the approval of the Board of Trustees, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute proudly admits each of you to the bachelor's degree with all the rights and privileges thereunto pertaining. We congratulate you and extend our sincere best wishes.
Bachelor of Science, Applied Physics, Jeffrey Schneider. Biochemistry and Biophysics, Robert Cleese. Raymond Lynn. Richard McNutt. Keith Weiss. Jeremy Wood. In Bioinformatics and Molecular Biology, Devendra Debising. Chelsea Foley. Lindsay Nelson. Irvin Rayboy. Maria Cordell Tanega. Edward Toland. Yvonne Wu. Kimberly Yates. Miralee Ziba. In Biology, Rachel Bailey. Natasha Bakru. Rumchana Morlu. Jazrai Gill. Justin Kane. Megan Keefe. Ann Larson. Michael Latre. Dwayne Matthews. Elizabeth Mitchell. Chad Mormon. Gustav Mukherjee. Stephanie Ney. Rahul Parekh. Michael Paris. James Perkins. Anthony Pudhumana. Preeti Ravichandran. Gustavo Rendon. Austin Robinson. Vanessa Small. Adam Stallmer. Melissa Shatowski. Lucas Tarquino. Diane Turcott. Taryn Winkel. In Chemistry, Laura Babaski, Jeffrey Cranel, Joseph Grant, Alexander Jewett, William Catt, Brian Moreland, Lisa Ponser, Eric Peak, Lorraine Tan, Melissa Van Alstyne, David Weber. In computer science, Ertim Alexanko, Roger Alvarez, Aliasker Amin, Andrew Unkar, Michael Anakarenkyo, Rocco Balsamo, Victory Balta, Christopher Beavers, Jeremy Bihe, Sumaya Bingangum, Benjamin Benjurin, Daniel Berlin, Orr Bernstein, Reed Bixby, Eric Blaine, John Blauvelt, Justin Brockert, Andrew Carabino, David Carlson, Paul Casper, Christian Castillo, Andy Chan, Kin Chan, Raymond Cheng, Hamilton Clower, Kyle Cronin, Noah Cutting, Jeffrey Zarnowski, Aaron Dobman, Brian Davis, David Dombrowski, Zerkasis Dartawala, Benjamin Downey, Maureen Duffy, Matt Duggan, Jason Dunlop, Robert Duong, Peter Eastman, Christopher Eldridge, Eric Fallon, Benjamin Farkas, James Felicito, James Edward Flemmer, Sean Paul Fleming, James Garrettson, Douglas Greaves, Eric Griffith, Kenneth Hampson, Patrick Hartley, J. Michael Heidbrader, Patrick Henstebeck, Richard Hicks, Eric Internacola, Michael Jacoby, Daniel Gemolo, Jay Gion, Dustin Johns, Vijay Kakad, Daniel Keith, Jaewong Kim, James Keknockle, James Conrad, Jonathan Coop, Ritesh Kumar, Anil Lakhani, Joshua Lambert, Lawrence Lansing, Tien Lee, Andrew Lee, Mitchell Lee, Paul Lee, William Lyserson, Matthew Leota, Jeffrey Lester, Stanley Lashinsky. Robert Lewis. Jeffrey Lynch. Ashok Mundava. Christopher Mather. Lucas McGrew. Andrew Merzon. Alan Merzon. Oak Miller. Marion Montiano. John Morgan. Noel Morin. Ola Mork. Russell Mull. Christopher Munn. Richard Nugent. Muhit Oberoi. Adam Orsi. Greg Palmer. David Parenti. Andrew Perrin. Matthew Perugi. Michael Pizzula. Daniel Piantoni. Jonathan Porzik. Megan Porter. Ronnie Koenig Powers III. Paul Quint. Alexander Reddington. Justin Reiser. Jeffrey Richards. Scott Robertson. Daniel Robinson. Jenny Rogers. Jonathan Rogers. David Rom. Adam Rose. Tina Rovinskaya. Kevin Sadaveri. Darren Schreiber. David Scott. Michael Sensabaugh. John Szerzinski. Bradford J. Smith. Frederick Smith. Joseph Soche. Paul Sorensen. Abraham Stevens. John Stillion. Matthew Strike. Adnan Silvega. Abraham Sultan. Jeffrey Swenson. Kevin Taylor. Eric Thomas. Thais Trader. Kent Tong. Jamil Valiani. Marshall Vandergrift. Michael Van. Kevin Vecchione. Rachel Vaquito. Michael Vensky. James Wilson. Matthew Ronka. Michael Yaksevich. James Zern. Stephen Zilberman. In Environmental Studies, Jennifer Warren. In Geology, Ona Smith. In Interdisciplinary Science, Tracy Uckren. In Mathematics, Robert Bachman. Kevin Coletta. Christopher Dishner. Randall French. Paul Horn. Jeremy Keim. Dennis Keys. David Lubin, Mark Pesci, Jean Fenor, Edward Ryder, Anthony Spackman, Vinette Verkasamy. In physics, Peter Earhart, Adam Grossman, Nicholas Karpowitz, Jane Krenkel, John Marsh, Ryan Quiller, Herman Reese, Joseph Scryer, Tristan Ursell, Eric Williams, Scott Waltman.
I now ask Associate Dean of Information Technology, David Spooner, to come forward.
Will the candidates for the bachelor's degree in information technology please rise? Madam President, I have the honor to present the candidates for the degree of Bachelor of Science in Information Technology. Madam President, the candidates standing have completed the requirements of the university, and the faculty recommends them to you for the bachelor's degree in information technology.
By virtue of the authority of the laws of the state of New York, on the recommendation of the faculty, and with the approval of the Board of Trustees, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute proudly admits each of you to the bachelor's degree with all the rights and privileges thereunto pertaining. We congratulate you and extend our sincere best wishes.
Bachelor of Science in Information Technology, Rohit Argawal. Aaron Arsenault. Brian Barty. Christina Barreto. Anthony Caffarilli. Gabriel Chomik. Jessica Constantine. Marissa Krifasi. Manish Dalwadi. Brian Del Judas. Daniel Fittick. Christopher Fleisch. Matthew Garand. Jeffrey Garzone. William Gill. Marissa Gordon. Shashank Gupta. Brandon Havener. William Hay. Sean Henderson. William Hokey. Jacob Hunt. Mehdi Ibrahim. Jennifer Jablonski. Ian Jaffe. C. David Jones. Ryan Jones. Ryan Jones. David Kaplowitz. Elizabeth King. Wing Yi Kwong. Kawang Liao. Edward Lin. Hillary Lindsay. Gabrielle Maher. Brian Mai. Jonathan Marcus. Yeli Martinez. Joshua McCannahy. Jay McLaughlin. Michael McKiernan. Christina Melicherek. Jordan Moskal. Michael Palmer. Chanda Nipatel. Jean Pathill. Sarah Piloquin. Nathan Putman. Patrick Quinlan. Jonathan Reese. Brian Ree. Matthew Richard. Christopher Robbins. James Roberts. Leanna Smith. Taylor Smith. Michael Spada. William Spears. Eric Stanton. Carrie Stappenbacker. Shun Soon. Dominic Trupity. Chipu Sai.
Yeah, Mingo, what's up?
Seyum. Matthew Williams. Suha Wong. Ren Tao Wu. Hyung Young. Eric Young. Paul Zilicki. John Zhu. Jonathan Zola.
Hey, thanks for waiting.
Matthew Zujeski.
You know, my script says, please join me in a round of applause for all the graduates. The Rensselaerics will now help us to celebrate the wonderful occasion in honor of the class of 2003.
Come home every evening back to painted pray for salvation,
so that we may ride the curve. Fathers, the bookstore, the games room, the hole in the wall, and the rat. A-board, J-board, I pack, you pack, we all pack, some matter of fact. The bursar, the registrar, to West Ham or to Green. JCCII, DCC, PCC, CBCC, and CC. But of all we've learned at Rensselaer, from all we've had to do, there's one thing that all sums it up, and it's in the following tune. E to the S, T, I, D, I, E to the S, T, A, to the coast, I, C, S, and square root, cube root, log of pi, descent and rate, then RPI. That's Rensselaer. Here's to old RPI, her fame may never die. Here's to old Rensselaer, she stands today without a peer. Here's to those olden days. Here's to those golden days. Here's to the friends we've made at dear old RPI.
bum bum bum.
Here's to old RPI, her fame may never die. Here's to old Rensselaer, she stands today without a peer. Here's to those olden days. Here's to those golden days. Here's to the friends we've made at dear old RPI.
Won't you join me by removing your caps, bowing your heads, and opening your hearts as we ask God's blessing on these graduates? Good and gracious God, our hearts are full as we give you thanks and praise for the beauty of this day and the joy and enthusiasm that we feel in our hearts. Grant that these graduates may always seek your wisdom and guidance. May they always walk in integrity, dignity, and humility. And we ask this confident in your love for us. Amen.
We have come to the end. I would ask that the graduates and the audience remain in your places until the academic processional leaves the field. Thank you very much. Congratulations and Godspeed.